Alright, so if you clicked on this video, you're obviously having a little trouble with your idle, being too high, too low, not idling at all, whatever. So this is my CR500, and then I also have this little JR80 over here. Both are idling pretty bad. This one idles really high. This one doesn't really idle at all. And I'll show you how to fix that today. I'm gonna try to go really fast and not talk a lot and go on like I'm doing now, so that you can just figure it out, since you're probably in your shop watching this video just trying to figure it out real quick. So let's get into it. Alright, the first thing you're going to want to do when you're testing your idle and adjusting it with the fuel air screw and the idle screw is you want your bike to warm up. So I know it might not idle right now, but just stay on the throttle, let it warm up for like 3 minutes, and if it won't stay running even with the throttle, then you probably got a different problem. But if you give it throttle and it bogs, then you're definitely too big on your main jet. Your main jet's like your full throttle and stuff, so if you're really ripping the throttle and it's like bogging out, your main jet's probably too big and you want to go down that. You want to rev it up. It revs up nice and fast, and then it slows down nice and easy, and then it comes back to a steady idle. So with this CR500, it takes a minute to warm up, because I can't just start it up and it'll idle and leave. I gotta let it warm up and then it'll idle. Alright, so here's your carburetor. First thing you're gonna wanna look at is your idle screw up here. This, it sounds just your idle. This is your fuel air mixture screw. That just that's for how rich and lean your bike is. It lets more air or less air in. It's for getting the fuel mixture right, but that also can affect your idle, as you'll see later on. So this one idles really high. That's usually a quick fix. Usually just the fuel air screw, not the idle screw, is in too far. So if you twist it in, it'll idle really high. If you twist it out, it'll idle lower. You just want to listen to it and find that sweet spot. So I'll show you real quick. And you see it will not come down in the idle. It'll stay. If you rev it up, it'll rev up for a long time and it won't really come back down. You want to, when you rev up a bike, you want it to come down slowly. And these are both 2 strokes, but it goes both ways for 4 and 2. So this one should just be this idle screw right here. Oh, that's dark. This idle screw right here is just in too far. So we're gonna twist it out a little bit, and then we're gonna start the bike, see how it sounds, and then we're just gonna keep toying with it. Alright, see how that one, I just adjust the idle screw. You can hear it start to rev down a little bit. It'll smooth out the idle, and now when I rev it up, it won't just stay revving really high. So that's that one. This one had a little more difficulty. This one wasn't just the idle screw. As you can see, this idle screw is all the way in. And one thing you can look is, alright, this was the plug that was in there. It is very black, and you can see it's kind of wet, so that means it's really rich. And so one thing that you can do is adjust your fuel air screw like that and see where it idles, and that'll give you a good estimate of where you're at. I made this little chart over here when I was doing this off camera. So the fuel screw out makes it richer, the fuel screw in makes it leaner. So I had a 55 pilot in here, and I idled it like 5 turns out. So you want to count it where you're screwing it in. So you want to count it with, that's half the turn, and that's 1 full turn. So if we want to count it, half, 1, 1, 1/2, so on and so forth. So that's just how those are measured. So then I put a 52 in there, and it started to idle with the fuel screw in a little bit more, and the range you want it at is like 1 to 2, preferably like 1.5. 2.5's not bad, but you want it at like 1 to 2. So I kept going down, and the fuel screw kept going in a little more, and then I put a 40 in, and that's actually at like 1.5. So now it idles, and I have the fuel screw in 2 turns out. I have a smaller pilot jet in there, and it'll rev up. The problem with this bike before, in case you're having this problem, was I could start it up very easily, but it wouldn't stay idling. If I warmed the bike up, it would idle for maybe like 10 seconds max, and then it would just die. And you would also, like, it wouldn't idle, it would idle very low. Like you could hear it go boom, 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 and it wouldn't be like constant boom, 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 like you want it to be. So you kind of just have to test a bunch of things. I tested for air leaks. There's no air leaks. One thing you can do is you can start it, you can spray some like soapy water on there. Like, you're gonna have air leaks around your boot mostly, so around there, and you look for any cracks in there, and you can spray soapy water on there, and it will it'll start to bubble. And if it bubbles like air's coming through, then you got an air leak. It's called like a vacuum leak because it's sucking in too much air, and that'll make it a very lean mixture. So your spark plug will be white. A rich mixture, your spark plug's gonna be like black. A lean mixture, your spark plug's gonna be white. So it wouldn't idle. I tried different jets, the idle screws all the way in, and I didn't have any air leaks, so it had to have been the jets. So first off, you look at the spark plug, you see if it's rich or lean, and if it was white spark plug, because I've been running it for a while, it wasn't like a brand new spark plug. If it was a white spark plug, it was still like kind of white and maybe a little black, then it's too lean, and I needed a bigger pilot jet. But since it was rich and it was just flooding out, and since it was rich and fouling out the spark plug, I knew that the pilot jet was too big and I needed a smaller one. So I kept going down, and I kept turning the fuel screw out, or the air screw out, as much as I can, until it would idle just a little better. I was able to get it to actually idle, but 4 turns out, that's not ideal. That's not very good. And it would still run very rich like that. So just keep going down in your pilot jets. That's probably your problem. So yeah, the other problem you might be having is it only idles with the choke on. You start it up with the choke, but as soon as you cut the choke off, it'll die. So the choke, it doesn't let in more air, it doesn't let in more fuel, it just restricts the airflow. So it's just trying to make that mixture of the fuel and air the right, like, perfect amount of mixture by restricting airflow and a little bit of gas. But so if you're idling with your choke and that's it, that's also another indication that it's probably too big of a pilot jet. If you are going down on your pilot jet and you're messing with the air screw, have it running, you turn it out a bunch, turn it in a bunch, you want to adjust it like a quarter screw at a time. You don't want to like do like 6 turns out and then like 4 turns in. you want to slowly adjust it, and you keep it revving up a little bit just so that it won't die on you. But once you finally find that sweet spot, then you can start to figure out what you need. If you need a smaller jet, if you might need to go up a little bit, because once you figure that out, it's really not too bad. The three things that affect your idle are your fuel air screw, your idle screw, and your pilot jet. So those are the three things you need to focus on when you're adjusting idle and it's not idling right. Idling too high, almost always your idle screw's in too far and you need to screw it out. If it's idling really low, then you need to adjust your fuel air screw and look at the spark plug, see if you're rich or lean, and then you can figure out if you need to go up or down on your pilot jet. Alright, so I'm going to kind of go over everything real quick, and this is all for like if your idle screw is all the way in, then I would look at your jets. So if your pilot jet is too big, it's going to let too much airflow or too much fuel come through, and you're going to get a rich mixture and your spark plug is going to be black. If it's too small, then it's not going to let enough fuel through, and you're probably going to have too much air going through, and it's going to be really lean. What you want is to find that perfect mix, that nice golden color on the spark plug, with your fuel air screw, adjusting that and getting the right jets in there. And if your bike only runs with the choke out, then you probably have too big of a pilot jet. And if your bike is bogging, once you rev it out, then you probably have too big of a main jet. So that's for if it runs with, if it can't run without the choke. But if it just dies and it won't idle, but it'll just kind of putter out and die, it has a really low idle, also is probably too big of a pilot jet. If you're adjusting the idle screw and it's not really changing, then you probably have an air leak somewhere. There's little kits you can buy that like blows smoke. I have one of those. I really like it. It works pretty well. But my old method of just spraying soapy water over the boot also works pretty well if you don't want to buy a kit. Pilot jets are these little guys. They come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. Those are the main ones. These are the main jets. They're a little bigger. And the main jets have a really big hole in them. You can see. You can see that little hole through there? That's a way bigger hole than, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it through here. See that little hole? So, pilot jets are going to have little tiny holes. Main jets are going to have bigger holes. Main jets are for like wide open throttle. And pilot jets are for idle and quarter throttle. So these are what the pilot jet looks like. These are what the main jet looks like. These pilot jets, this doesn't go in this carb, but they go in this hole right here. So this is where all your fuel comes out of, and the float bowl will be right here, and you'll have a little needle that sits in here that when the float fills up, it'll push that needle down and seal that off so no more gas comes through. And then in here is where your pilot jet will be, and right here is where your main jet will be. So your main jet screws in the middle, just like that. This isn't the right main jet for this carb, but yeah, your main jet's gonna be in the middle in the big hole that your needle for your throttle slide is gonna go through. So throttle slide is gonna go down there through that hole, and you can see my finger covering up. That's this hole that the main jet comes out of. So the main jet basically sits right over the needle when it's all the way down, and the pilot jet will be over here, right next to it. I really hope this video helped you. If it did, please leave a like and let me know what else I can help you with. Thank you for watching.